Hi, everyone, and welcome to today's lecture, which is called Introduction to AI. My name is Anna Tlasova. I'm an AI educator in Bay Area, California. I have my master's degree in the Technical University of Munich, and I also worked at Amazon for 5 years as a data analyst. And I am teaching AI and data for the last 5 years. And in general, I'm in IT and AI for 11 years. As well, I lived in Germany for 3 years, in London for 2 years, in Helsinki and Porto, Portugal. So if any of you are from that countries, please let me know. So what this lecture is about. Today I'm going to tell you about anything related to the AI. So instead of you searching about AI for 10 and more hours, you are going to have just this 1 hour of this lecture. So today we're going to cover the AI basics, what every startup founder should know about AI. We're going to talk about what are the LLMs, AI agents, fine-tuning, and just general advice about the AI startups. So these are some questions for you. Please write in the chat how well do you know about AI, LLM, or ML, and how often do you use AI? So I just have a general idea about the audience. So let's go further. And if you have any questions related to this lecture, please write down below to the chat, and I'm going to answer to them later in this lecture. So let's start from the AI basics. What is AI? I think most of you know about this. AI is a broad field of science and technology focused on building systems that demonstrate intelligence. So if in this lecture, we are going to start with creating some diagrams, so it's better to structurize this knowledge in your brain. So we have the AI, and then we see from this diagram that we have a machine learning, which is subfield of AI. What is the machine learning? Machine learning is a field focused on developing algorithms that learn patterns from data instead of being explicitly programmed. I know this is lots of words, but let me try to tell you about this with easier words. So we have a non-ML algorithm and ML algorithm. And the difference here that in the non-ML algorithm, we have a request, we have this algorithm, and we get some result. And to get some result, we also need some instructions to the algorithm, which is written by us humans. In the case of the ML algorithm, we're going to have the request, we have going to have the algorithm, we're going to have some data fed to this algorithm, and going to have some result. And this algorithm is training on this data. But if we have like a more precise example is with cats. So for instance, you have a request if this picture is a cat or not. So in the case of the not ML algorithm, we are going to say this algorithm like the cat should have 4 paws, it should have 2 ears, 1 tail, and then this algorithm is going to say if this picture is a cat or not. In the case of an ML algorithm, we are going to, instead of instructions, we're going to give thousands of pictures of cats. So algorithm is going to train on this data and just to learn the patterns of the cats. And that's how it's going to give you a result if this picture is a cat or not. So just to sum it up, machine learning is a field for creating trainable algorithms that produce results based on data, not instructions. I hope it's clear. If it's not, please write down to the chat. We can talk about this later. And going further with this diagram, as we can see here, we had AI first, then we have machine learning, which is a subfield of AI. Then we are going to have neural networks, which is a subfield of machine learning. So neural networks is a method of ML, machine learning, based on the functioning of neurons in the human brain. So it's really easy to understand that, for instance, if we have like a human brain, we have neurons, we have some information that we see or hear, we have this input data, this data comes to a neuron, in this neuron, this data is processed, and this data is then pushed further to another neuron, it's processed there, and so on and so forth. In the neural networks, the system is really similar. We have an input layer of the data, this data is like in neurons, then this data is processed and pushed forward to another neuron where it's processed again, and then it's pushed to another neuron, and so on and so forth. So the basic methodology is pretty the same as a human brain. So from this diagram, we see that we have a neural network, but then we have a deep learning. And deep learning is like a hyped thing for the last few years, maybe even decades for some. So from this diagram, we can see that deep learning is actually neural networks. But if I'm more precise about this, but deep learning is actually just a multi-layer neural networks. So what does it mean? We have a not deep learning neural network, and there we have just one layer of this neurons processing the information. So we have the input layer, we have this data pushed to these neural networks, and then we have the output layer. In the case of deep learning neural networks, it's easy, very easy. Instead of having just one hidden layer of processing the information, we have multiple layers. So we can just say that deep learning is a multiple layers neural network. And nowadays, most of the neural networks used in the in practice are deep learning models. So when you hear deep learning and neural networks right now, it's pretty the same, because most of the neural networks right now are multi-layer, so which means that they are deep learning neural networks. So let's go further. And then in this diagram, we have Gen AI. Gen AI is already something much more interesting, which got hyped really in the last 3 years. And as we can see from this diagram, the Gen AI is based on deep learning. And what is Gen AI, or generative AI? Generative AI is a type of AI that creates new content, which can be text, video, audio, games, and so on and so forth, by learning patterns from data. So it's really easy to demonstrate it. So what is a Gen AI? Gen AI is something that creates some content, which can be text, which can be some 3D animation, it can be audio, it can be images, and so on and so forth. But in case of the non-Gen AI, it would be about something like classification, forecast, analysis, robots, moving, and so on. So when it comes about like numbers, mostly it's not Gen AI, or when it comes about like robots. What is Gen AI is basically generating some content based on learning some patterns from the data that it had. So when we go back to our diagram, then we have like NLP. Please write down below in the chat if you know what is an NLP, if you heard about it before. I hope I can help you to know about this much more from this lecture. So what is NLP? NLP is a natural language processing. Its abbreviation is NLP. And as we can see from this diagram, it's a subfield of AI. It's not a subfield of Gen AI. So what is a natural language processing? It's a field of computational linguistics and AI for processing, generating, and recognizing natural language. So as we can see from this name by itself, natural language processing. So it's processing or generating or recognizing natural language. What is natural language? It's basically human language. So it comes about speech and text. So basically NLP is a field of AI and computational linguistics that is focused on processing, generating, and recognizing anything that is related to the human language. So again, NLP is about, again, anything related to the human speech or text. But in case of a non-NLP, it's like robotics, images, video. So NLP is connected to human language. So let's go back to our diagram, and we can see again that NLP is an AI, and it's a broader field than Gen AI or deep learning. Let's go further. And now from this diagram, you see that we have like a new field, which is called LLM. And from the diagram, we can see that this is an intersection of NLP and Gen AI. So from this, you already can understand what it is about. But if we talk about it a little bit more, LLM is a large language model. So it's a neural network with billions of parameters trained on massive data sets for text generation. So as we saw from the diagram, LLM is a Gen AI, so it's creating something, and it's also NLP, so it's related to human language. So this is large language model is a neural network which generates text. And it's also from the name, you can see that it's a large language model. So large in this case means that this is a neural network, which is with billions parameters. What is a parameter? If you remember these neural networks that we had like neurons. So these neurons are parameters. So these large language models, they have millions of these layers of neural networks. Neurons, but also they have like billions of these neurons in this neural network. And also this neural network is trained on massive data sets. So this is how it's best to describe a large language model. And unlike traditional NLP, it uses larger context windows and deep learning trained on much larger data sets. We're going to talk about what is a context window later on in this lecture. So LLM, of course, let's talk about a little bit more because this is the most popular thing going on right now in the last 2 years, 3 years. LLM, of course, the most popular model of LLM, most popular LLM right now is a GPT, and GPT is an LLM of a company called OpenAI. What is important to know about the GPT? GPT is the LLM model, and we have a ChatGPT. And ChatGPT is a chat-based interface for GPT. So ChatGPT is basically an interface in the form of a chat. So you can talk with the LLM model of the OpenAI on the background. So this is about the GPT. Of course, there are other really popular LLMs right now, like Gemini from Google, Claude from Anthropic, Grok from XAI, Llama from Meta, DeepSeek from a Chinese company. And we are going to talk about them a little bit later in more detail. So when we talked about the LLM, I hope this is clear so far. If not, please write down below in the chat. We have also multimodal Gen AI, and it's also important to know about it. What is this? And from the diagram, we can see that it touches LLM to some part, but actually it's a type of a Gen AI. So what I tell about this is basically a multimodal Gen AI is a model that works with different modalities. Modalities are like text, video, images, audio, and etc. So it's really easy to describe it. So in the case of the LLM, we have like a text and text. So we have input text, for instance, in the ChatGPT, and we have text as an output. In the multimodal Gen AI, we would have like text in the input, image in the output. So for instance, in ChatGPT, you can ask to generate an image. This was not possible like 2 years ago, but right now it's possible to do it in the GPT. So this is called like a multimodal Gen AI. So we have different modalities. So this comes about like anything which is related to several modalities working together. So it can be text, video, text, audio, text, 3D. Of course, there can be like image, video, multi-modalities as well, but the most common are still having like the text as an input. So multimodal Gen AI is a type of Gen AI which often uses LLM for text and generates or works with different modalities. And currently, most popular LLMs are multimodal, like GPT, Gemini, and Grok are all multimodal. And it's very interesting because I think 2 years ago here in Roboteam, I also gave a lecture about AI. And back then, we had just only GPT and the BART from Google, and they were not multimodal. Multimodality became a thing last year. So it's really interesting to have like this lectures always developing every day. So right now, mostly all the LLMs that we work with are multimodal LLMs. So they don't work only with text, but also with other modalities as well. I hope this is clear. So let's go further and talk about the most popular LLMs right now. So we have this table. You're going to have this presentation later on, so you can look at it a bit more in detail. So here we have the most popular LLMs at the moment, which are like the GPT, Gemini, Claude, Llama, Grok, and DeepSeek. And then I just wrote down some simple comments to this model, so you have an idea which model to use for what. So first of all, of course, we have the GPT, which is, some people say, like the state-of-the-art model. I would say that this model is just a default, versatile, and best for everyday tasks. So if you are not very familiar with the different LLMs, or you don't want to spend much time discovering other LLMs, GPT is like a go-to, a really great model to use for most of the tasks that you can have. Then the second best is the Gemini from Google, and it's also very good for everyday tasks. But for me personally, from my experience, I would say that Gemini is really great for generating images. And for me, it somehow worked that it even works better than GPT. And also, what is great about Gemini, that it works seamlessly with Google products. I know that you're going to have a lecture about the prompts about how to use LLMs further in this program. But I just want to give you a quick tip. Maybe you didn't know about this, but I really like to use Gemini for this specific task. So in general, GPT always was like the best model overall, and now Google is keeping up with the GPT. And I think why Google is actually a really good competitor for OpenAI is because Google has access to lots of data, which includes like YouTube, Google Maps, Gmail, documents, sheets, slides, and so on. And OpenAI doesn't have access to this data. And why I particularly use Gemini pretty often is because I use it for summarizing the YouTube videos. So I just copy paste a YouTube video that, for instance, about AI. Every day something happens about AI, and it's impossible to watch all these videos every day, to spend like hours for that videos. You can just copy paste that video to the Gemini and say like, okay, write down the key points from this video. And GPT cannot do this because it doesn't have access to YouTube, but Google does it. So I think it's a really great killer feature for the Google Gemini. So if we go further, we have the Claude from Anthropic. It's another American company. And the Claude is excellent for coding, especially with Cursor. Cursor is an app for coding, and it handles very well long documents or essays, and thanks to its large context window. Again, we're going to talk about what is the context window a bit later, but just in general, I would suggest you to play around with Cursor. Cursor is an app which is free for 14 days. And there you can, without skills of coding, you can just ask like, oh, build me an app, and it can create a code for you. Of course, it's best to have some basic skills in programming to use this tool, but still, I would say like what does Cursor and what does Claude in terms of like the coding is excellent. So I would say Claude is the best for coding. Then we have Llama. Llama is an open source LLM from Meta, and it's also free. Some versions are lightweight and inexpensive, and they are ideal for fine tuning. We're going to talk about what is fine tuning later on in this lecture, but what is great about Meta, that it has different models that you can play around, but some of the models you can just download it to your laptop, and you can talk with this model directly in your laptop without internet. And I found it really cool because basically you can just use this LLM, and it's really small, and it's very cheap compared to other LLM models where you actually need to pay for some processing of the request that you have. And then going further, we have Grok from XAI from Elon Musk. We know about this controversial person, and this LLM is also a bit different to others. So this Grok LLM model, it provides real-time knowledge from social media, and it's fun and edgy personality. It's because that, of course, this is a really important topic right now. It's about like AI ethics and safety, but Grok is a bit more flexible about it. So when it comes about like some controversial things, Grok is definitely going to have a different answer to your request. So if we go further, we have DeepSeek. It's a Chinese company, and its LLM model is DeepSeek, and Chinese company's name is DeepSeek. So it's an LLM which is originated as a fine-tuned Llama model. So basically, the first DeepSeek that they had, they just took the Llama model, downloaded it, fine-tuned it, and then they got some like a really cheap LLM. And this DeepSeek model is also known for its extremely low training costs because it's also based in China and so on. So these are the all like popular LLM models right now. And I'm gonna have like just a bonus slides for you, just for you to know. Maybe it would be beneficial for you to know about this, about the difference between AI and data science. So if we go back to this diagram, we have this AI things going on, but if we have data science, we can see that data science is a bit different field, but it's also a really big one. It's not all AI is data science, and not all data science is AI. So data science is anything related to data. It can be like data processing, data collecting, data analyzing, and so on. But AI can be sometimes like not related to data. It can be about like robots or like making like intelligence something. It would be like AI. In general, we also have like this fields like data analytics and data engineering and BI. Of course, this may differ across companies, but overall it's like this, that you can see from this slide that data engineering, for instance, has no connection to like machine learning and so on. Data analytics is usually not connected to like LLMs. So when you hire someone, it's good for you to know that you should not, for instance, hire like a data analyst or data scientist for like a hardcore LLM projects in your case. So let's go further with this lecture. And things to know about LLM, so you can get more familiar with that. So first thing to know, what is a prompt? I think most of you know about it. What is a prompt? So prompt is an input you give an LLM. So basically, this is just the text you write into the ChatGPT, for instance. And prompting is a skill. It became a skill in the last 2-3 years because a good prompt can improve results by up to 40%. So it's really, really important to know how to prompt. And I know that you're going to have a separate lecture about this, and it's really important to really learn about like how to use prompts. And just in general, my advice in prompting for you to start today is that when you write prompts, it's really important to be explicit about your goals and format. Instead of writing like, oh, give me this or that, you should tell this, okay, I need this goal, I need this output from you in this format. And really be specific about like what you want and what you need. And then the second thing is that you need to decompose complex tasks. Again, instead of just writing one sentence, you can just really decompose like these things. You also can add to the prompt saying like, okay, first do this, then do that, and then give the output. So instead of just give me the output. And then another advice is use reflection loops. You can also ask the ChatGPT, for instance. You can say, okay, evaluate your answer based on this criteria. If it's not good enough, reiterate and give a better answer and check it again. So in that case, your prompting can be much better. And it's really important to learn how to prompt because you really need to become fluent with AI. And I'm not talking about just the startup founders, it's about everyone, because the world is accelerating at the moment, and you really should be really familiar with how to prompt best to get the best results from the LLMs. And also, another important thing to know about the LLMs is that one conversation is one memory or a person, and new topic is a new person. I can give you an example of how. Okay, I guess you cannot see my screen anymore. Okay, I hope you can see it right now. So, for instance, in the ChatGPT, you have like all these chats that you created, and it's really important to know that one chat is like one memory, basically. So, for instance, this chat that I have here is about cortisol level assessment. So, this chat you can just keep about the cortisol level, and when you have other questions about cortisol or stress, you can just write down to this chat, because this is like one memory in that. And for instance, when I have like AI presentation feedback, this is another chat, and you should write anything related to AI presentation later on to this chat about AI presentation. So I would just suggest you to have this hygiene in the using the LLMs. So any new topic that you have, you should have a new conversation. And also a cool advice for startup founders, I think, that you can also create like a team for your startup in ChatGPT. So basically, you can create one conversation, which can be like a marketing person or like a legal person or a product manager, and you just write in the chat, okay, you're a product manager from a top tier company for like a YC startup. This is the product idea that I have. Write a customer journey. And then later on, when you have some task for this product manager, you're just going to feed it to this conversation. And then, for instance, you can have a separate person, which is a legal one. You can just write legal questions to that. And the memory is remembered in this specific chat. So this is a really cool thing to use. And it's really important to have like this, I would say, LLM hygiene. All right. Let me reshare my screen to my slides. Yeah, I hope it's working now. Um, so, yeah, the second thing to know about LLMs is the hallucinations and fact checking. And hallucinations is a big topic in LLMs right now, because hallucinations is the biggest challenge in LLM. What is a hallucination? Is basically when you get an incorrect result. And it's really important for you to learn how to fact check your hallucinations. So it's really inevitable for the LLMs to produce sometimes incorrect results. So I would say that my overall advice would be that if you have a really high stakes information from LLM, for instance, when I was preparing the slides for you, of course, I would need to verify this information somewhere else without just trusting the LLM. But if it's a low stake information, just use it and move on. So for instance, when I ask something about like, should I buy this product or that product, this is not really like important for me if it's an error or not. It would just suggest me something and I would just buy it without like double checking it. So when you have high stakes info, verify it. Low stakes, just use it as it is. So an overall advice with the hallucinations is to check if it's a high stakes info. The first things you can do is talk to experts in the field to understand if it's correct or not. Another thing that you can do, you can write this prompt saying like, evaluate this, point out any inaccuracies, verify information online, and provide links. And another advice can be here, you can compare responses from different LLMs. But I would say that still the main advice is to talk to experts in the field, because if it's a really high stakes information, just it's better to verify it and never trust LLM as it is. So the third thing is about the context window. So context window is the model's working memory short term. So as I showed you in the ChatGPT, you have like this conversation, and you can imagine that this conversation, the all the text that you write here and all the output that ChatGPT gives to you, it's then somehow like suppressed, and then it's stored as a short term models work in memory. So every conversation is like this short term memory. And context window is called for the number of letters, or it's called like number of tokens, but tokens you can think about them like words, for instance. So this is like a number of words a model can store in one moment. So it has some limits. So GPT can store this amount of moments of words in the memory. Um, so when you, in one conversation, for instance, I don't know if someone had this or not, if one conversation gets too long in the ChatGPT, then ChatGPT, first of all, starts to be really slow and it can crash because it's just much more than the context window, which is like a limit of, let's say, 200,000 words. So in that case, yeah, it's better to start a new memory, a new conversation with a new memory, and the context window is going to be, again, limiting this memory to this number of words. So again, this is why Claude is better, because it has a larger context window. So basically, it can remember more than GPT or Gemini at this moment. So this is let's go about the what every startup founder should know about AI. So we already talked about lots of things, and these things basically are the core concepts of AI and ML. And then we're going to talk about the opportunities in AI startups and biggest challenges. And then we have the how to speed up your work, prompting and fact checking. So I would say like the how to speed up your work, you're going to have it in a different lecture. But today we're going to talk about more about like opportunities in AI startups. So core opportunities in developing an AI startup right now in 2025 October. So we have three things here. Is first one is building AI agents. Second one is fine-tuning LLMs, and third one is building own LLM or ML or AI. So there are other things to do, but they are too technical and it may be really challenging for startup founders without much resources. So now let's go through them. So question for you, how familiar are you with AI agents and fine tuning? I know there was lots of information right now, so I hope you keep up with me. So please let me know if not, and also please let me know if you um, know about the AI agents and fine tuning. Not so much. That's great, because I'm gonna tell you about this. All right. I just, yeah, used once for applying to jobs. That's great. Awesome. So let's talk about the AI agents and fine tuning and start with AI agents. So AI agents, and we are going to start with the AI workflow. In AI workflow, we have an input, LLM, and output. So it can be like a text we get into an LLM, and then we get a text as an output in the LLM. So for instance, we have a request to an LLM saying like, what should I wear to my meeting tomorrow? That this would be a request to LLM. But LLM is going to fail to answer this question because it doesn't know what meetings you have tomorrow. And also it doesn't know your location or the location of these events. It sometimes can know your location if you shared it before, but if you didn't, then it would not know. So let's start with a human decision maker. So in the case of a AI workflow with a human decision maker, we remember that this AI workflow didn't work. And now the human comes up and says like, okay, how can I make this AI workflow work? So what human is going to say like, to answer this question, we need to add calendar API and request LLM to check tomorrow's event location and time and get the weather for that. So in this case, human as a decision maker to how to reply to this request, it's going to add additional prompt to this initial prompt saying like, you need to call calendar API to get this location, time the event tomorrow, check the weather for that location and time, and suggest clothes for that weather. So basically, and you're going to basically provide the calendar API to this LLM. So it's really important to remember here, just to understand further about the AI agents. Let's remember here that here we have a human decision maker. So human decides how best to reply to this request and what tools to use and so on, and where to get the data. So let's go back to this AI workflow, but it's going to be an AI workflow with an AI agent. So instead of the LLM, in the case of the AI agent, we're going to have, instead of the LLM, we're going to have the AI agent. And it's important to know that this AI agent is also using an LLM model inside. And also it has different tools connected to this AI agent. It can be a Gmail, weather, a calendar, Slack, or anything that you want. So in that case, when we ask this question, what should I wear to my meeting tomorrow, to the AI agent in this case is going to think, what do I need to reply to this question? For this question, I need to have a location and time. Okay, where can I get this data? I can get this data from the calendar API. So then it gets this data from the calendar API and gets the successful results. So the only difference here is that in the case of the normal AI workflow, a human needs to decide like where to get this data, how to better like answer these questions on. In the case of AI is connected already for different like tools that you want. And then it runs also on an LLM, and AI agent instead of human thinks like about how to better reply to this question. So the question can be really simple. You don't need to have like additional like things, details to this request, but AI agent is going to think about like how best to reply to this question. And what is more, it doesn't only provide just the output, it also checks the output, how good is this output, and just tries to make this output better, and also can have some like criteria for the output. So this is really great. So for instance, it can be used in customer service because you can have like your AI agent, which is just like connected to the data that you need. And then this AI agent is gonna provide the information to your client, and the client doesn't need to say like, oh, you need to get the data from this or there. So it's really cool thing to do, and you can create your own free AI agent on a platform called n8n.io. It's a platform where you have access for 14 days for free AI agents. And I would just definitely recommend you to play around with that. And I also added this link to a YouTube where it's a no code without any technical background. They just guide you of how you can create this AI agent. So it's, and also got this screenshot from this website. And as you can see, it's really similar to the workflow that I just presented. You also have this input, then you have this AI agent. This AI agent is run on this chat model, and the chat model here is the Anthropic Claude, I suppose, chat model. And then it has also memory. So AI agent also stores some memory in a Postgres. And also AI agent has different tools, as we discuss on this lecture. And then this output is provided, also is checked, and so on and so forth. So the AI workflow is pretty similar as we described before. So okay, we know now about the AI agents, and another big thing to know about LLMs right now is the fine tuning. So what is fine tuning? So let's go back to our beloved AI workflow where we have input, LLM, and output. And in this case, let's ask a question which is really obvious for everyone, is like, what is the capital of Japan? And let's imagine that the LLM doesn't know the answer for this, and it gives us an incorrect answer like a Seoul, which is actually a capital of the South Korea. So what we can do for this LLM to reply to this question correctly, we can give this LLM an additional training data of the correct data, like country and capital, like Japan and Tokyo and so on. So in this case, basically LLM is going to produce the correct answer, which is Tokyo. So another way of how to make this model working better and producing the correct result is given like an instruction answer pairs. So instead of a data set like of the country and capital, you can give like instruction answers pairs. So basically instruction can be a question or request like what is the capital of Japan, and then the correct answer is Tokyo. So then LLM knows that for this kind of questions I need to reply in this way, and this is going to be a Tokyo. So these two ways, of course, in this case, it's not probable that LLM is going to reply to this question incorrectly. But for instance, when it comes about something more sophisticated or more difficult question, like for instance, what to do if a person has like diabetes or something like that, what you can do, you can add like this additional data so the LLM replies to this model correctly, to this question correctly. And also what is important here is that what happens usually is that when you get this answer, you also can error check this answer to the instructor answer pairs or training data that you provided. So and this is called error check. And so for instance, if the answer is Tokyo, this answer is checked with the instruction answer pairs and it says, oh, okay, capital of Chen is indeed Tokyo, then LLM works correctly. But if the answer is incorrect, then this answer is pushed back to this instruction answer pairs, and then it's checked, and then this LLM is changed a little bit more so it replies to this question correctly. So all the things that I described here is actually the fine tuning. So fine tuning is basically adding, usually it's like instruction answer pairs and also the training data. And then you also check the answer to like the data that you provide. So you have this error checking. So all this thing is called like this fancy word fine tuning. So now you know about fine tuning as well. So going back to the lecture, what are the core opportunities in AI startups? We talked about building AI agents and we talked about fine-tuning LLMs. And the third thing that we haven't touched yet is about what about like building own LLM or ML or AI? Can I be another GPT or can I be another Claude or Llama? So let's talk about, is it possible for me to create own LLM or ML or AI? So let's start with the LLM technologies. So it's really important for you to know that the most expensive part of developing LLM technologies isn't just the specialists, but their salaries and time, which is also very expensive, like to hire an ML engineer or something like that. But it's also the infrastructure required to develop LLM. For this, I will just explain you how LLM is created. So LLM is created in several steps, and the first step is the pre-training. I hope you keep up with me. I hope it's, please let me know if you have, yeah, so if something is unclear, we'll come back to this later. So when we create LLM or GPT or OpenAI creates LLM, the first step is pre-training. What is pre-training an LLM? So we have chunk of the internet. So basically you get all the internet or internet that you have access to. It's very huge. You can imagine that it's going to be like 10 terabytes of data of text. And then if you put all this data, as we remember from the machine learning, we put it to this model. And this model is the large language model, which is a transformer neural network. It's a neural network with a type of like transformer. And this neural network has billions of parameters, billions of neurons, and basically you train this data, you train this huge model with this huge data. So this is the pre-training, and this is how the base LLM is created. Later on, what happens is that you have the fine-tuning. So what is fine-tuning? Fine-tuning, again, we already talked about this. You have input and output, and then basically how, for instance, GPT is created. Some like they fine-tune this model, asking like write an essay about this and that. and then the LLM got the result, but also they have the fine tuning. They add some instruction answer pairs. And so we have this base LLM, which is the chunk of internet. And of course, like this chunk of internet has lots of like not good data. So you need to train the data to write some really like professional or like essays or the way, like, so for instance, if you would just use the base LLM, you can imagine like what kind of a text you would give it and get as an output, because it would be trained on lots of like people like talking to each other. So in this case, what LLMs do, they add some instruction answer pairs for lots of different like questions, and it just feeds like how the answer should look like. And for instance, in case of the essays, it just shows like how the professional essay should look like. So in this case, this model is again trained on this instruction answer pairs, gets some results, then this error checked, it's again like trained a little bit more, and this goes forth and so forth. So this is like the fine tuning of the model, which is the second step of creating LLM. Then we have like the third and fourth steps, which is reinforcement learning and post-training enhancement. But I think I'm not going to touch these parts here, but I would say just these first two steps are the most important ones about the LLMs. And going back to our question, can I create own LLM? And for you, it's really important to know that the pre-training part, this step requires like thousands of GPUs. It's like supercomputers, small supercomputers. This is the whole Taiwan, China, America rival about, because to have access to these GPUs, there is not so many GPUs in the world. They are super expensive. And for this pre-training, you need some machines that this pre-training is going to work on. And this processing of this information costs like really lots of money. So in case of, for instance, DeepMind, which is like the cheapest LLM, I would say, they spent like $250,000 on training, pre-training the model. And it's really important to know that DeepSeek has access to really cheap hardware because they are in China, and cheap energy. But in the case of Europe or America, it's going to be different. It's going to be much more expensive. So for instance, in the case of GPT-4, they require to have like 10,000, it's like from rumors, it was 10,000 of GPUs, and it costs like $75 million to create just one GPT-4, just to run once this, just to pre-train once the model. And that's why it doesn't happen. They do not train the model every month, because just one run costs like a lot, like several millions of dollars. And of course, the second thing is, which is also pretty expensive, is the fine tuning. Because here, for instance, GPT-4 requires around like $5 million here, because you need to get really experts from the fields. You need to get lots of human grade, high quality data. You need to feed it. And again, this processing costs like GPUs and so on and so forth. So this is really expensive. So LLM infrastructure, what does it need? It needs computational power like GPUs, supercalculators, cloud computing servers. You also need lots of servers for storing large volume of data, because LLM is about like having lots of data, like whole internet. And you also need some data centers for that. And you also, of course, need some quality and quantity of the data itself. So you need to have lots of data, and you need to have like lots of like high quality data. So all of it is really expensive. So I would say like overall, that's why there are not so many LLMs in the world right now, and lots of countries are struggling to keep up with this, like the big models right now, because it's just first of all, it's really expensive to create all LLMs, and it's also difficult to get access to the GPUs at the moment. So another question. So we talked about like creating own LLM, and what about like creation of own machine learning or artificial intelligence? So here I would say, like, if you are a startup founder without many resources, you don't have like software engineers in your team, and you don't have like millions of dollars, I would suggest, or hundred thousands at least, I would suggest you don't build a model and build on one, because right now technologies are much ahead of products. So right now you have all these LLMs like GPT and so on. You can use it and you can build products on them. So I would say just overall suggestion is not to create like own MLs, just use what we have and just build products on this. Because right now, you can imagine that you can apply AI LLM solutions for any company in the world, for any service in the world that you have. And this market is free, and it's the great time for startups to create projects in this field because right now the products that you have, the technologies are much ahead of it. So for instance, like let's think about like for instance, renting a home or something like this, you can build an AI agent for that to like compare different rental options and so on. So you can basically put AI agent into any field, and it didn't happen yet. So you can really do that. It's a great time for creating startups, especially in AI field right now. Um, so overall, AI startups suggestions right now, creating AI agents is the hottest field at the moment. Fine-tuning existing LLMs is pretty good, is very good, but creating AI agents is a bit better than fine-tuning, or you can do both. Then the custom ML AI models or non-LLM, create own ML models. It's okay, it's possible, it's niche, depends on like how much resources you have. And then the fourth one, building own LLM from scratch. This is just not possible, not realistic for most of the companies in the world. So overall advice from all this lecture is that use AI to accelerate your work as much as possible. So I would suggest you really create your like own startup professionals in your team in the ChatGPT, for instance. Really learn how to prompt more efficiently, what tools you can use. There are many tools right now that you can use. For instance, there are different platforms where you can create an application with an AI agent. So right now you don't need to code an AI an application. You can just use a website and just write down a prompt, and it will create an app for you. Also, another important thing is AI agents, fine-tuning and leveraging current LLMs are the right bets right now. And the last but not least advice is for high-stake tasks, be careful with LLM outputs. For low-stake, just use it and move fast. So again, if you have a really important task like healthcare, for instance, of course you should be careful with LLM outputs, and you should like this information should be checked with like people who know about this. But if it's a low stake, something which doesn't much hurt, you can just use it and move fast and do the project as much as you can. So thank you so much for this lecture. We can now answer your questions that you have for this lecture. And please feel free to add me on LinkedIn. My name is Anna Tlasova.